almost live from the CX Therapy Studio. CX Therapy Season 5.
Good morning, Max. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Julien. How are you this evening? How's Paris? How's life? Tell me your life story. How is it?
Look, it is summertime,
Ah.
so I'm enjoying summer life, and I'll just leave it to that. Having a great time. It's a little bit hot again, and I must say I've been thinking about you lately because the last story we had was a little bit scaring. It was scary for sure. It was scaring as well. I loved it. We learned tons of things. I think we should actually have made a 6-hour shows on that one because
I think you're right. And you know how we have our wall of fame. This would be the top of the wall of shame. This was by far, I think, the worst. Well, I guess maybe Marianne deserves an award for the most persistent customer in the history of ever to get through that.
Gosh, yeah. What did he say the other day? That was 27 months. Is it what he said?
27 months, 15 hours on the phone.
Wow, just that is pretty scary. So hopefully we'll have a slightly less depressing. Well, we'll see. We'll see what we get today. But
you never. Let's let the story go where it goes. Let's not put any preconceptions on
it. I won't say a word. Have you received some mail by any chance? Should I launch the jingle?
I tell you what, launch the jingle. I'm pretty sure we do. Let's see what comes.
Now it's time to open this week's mailbag.
All right, let me see that.
Ta-da!
You do have a letter.
You
know what? It would have been better, and I have to tell you that. Today should not be a letter. Today should be a fax. That's what you should be getting. So for anyone who watched...
It just happens for all you can tell, that's a fax.
For anyone who watched the previous episode, the reason we're saying that is because Moran had to fax some official original documents to some weird bank.
And ironically, one of the documents he had to, I think the main one he had to fax was a death certificate, which is not particularly private or anything like that. I think it bears just 1 second or so. Marijn moved to the Netherlands. Sadly, his wife passed away, and he had a lot of accounts, some that were in her name, some that were in his name, and getting those out of U.S. banks who wouldn't allow him to keep the money there and live there. That's what took him 27 months to work through. And your fax comment actually ties really well to the question that came in, and thank you, listener.
What is that?
It mentions both fax and checks, and says,
"Oh, my two favorites."
Does a channel? It says it does a channel, but really a channel or a technology. Does a channel ever die? It's kind of an interesting thought, because I do, in my world, I get inquiries, and I can tell you right now, healthcare and financial services, at least in the US, fax is very much still a thing. It's odd and rare, but it is still required to be supported, and there are situations where that is the way to do it.
You know what? I think there are two reasons why some channels... There are two things that are required for a channel to still be alive. One, it has to be used by some people. And two, it has to fit a purpose. So in the case of fax, if you still have people using it, well, why not? I mean, why would you kill a technology that's still working and still has a purpose? It's no longer and probably not ever going to be a widely used solution ever again. And it should not be a solution that is forced onto people because it's not popular enough to be that anymore. But should we kill it entirely? I mean, if in some specific cases people still like it and it still get the job done, well, keep it around. I don't see any reason to kill it entirely. Just don't force it on people.
Two thoughts strike me as you said that. One is, to your point, when we talked to Marine, it wasn't like fax is the best channel for what they were doing. It's not particularly secure. It's not private. So it's not that it was the best fit for that unless there's some process thing. And I think you're right. I would subtly color what you said. I doubt anybody likes fax. I doubt anybody sits around and says, oh man, if only I could get a fax for this. But it's in place. It ain't broken. So it's just, I would say it's more they're used to it. They're accustomed to it, more along those lines.
I mean, some technologies have disappeared because they were not technologies. They were privately owned technologies. I mean, we've all cried when MSN disappeared. After being acquired a few years ago, Skype is now officially down, right? I think they finally killed it for good. So you have those technologies that have disappeared, and they've been replaced by similar but better technologies, more widely used. Fax cannot be replaced entirely because it's unique. And for the same, since we talk about customer experience, I mostly dislike phone conversations. I prefer digital. Any flavor of digital always wins against phone conversations for me specifically. But because you still have people and situations that will prefer phone conversation, phone has to remain for the next few decades because it fixes an issue that nothing else can fix, and it has users that want to use that. So to me, channels should not disappear unless they're replaced by something somehow similar and better, or just no one is using them anymore.
The evolution of channels is an interesting point. My kids and I now, when we're texting, we're doing more and more voice memos, I guess is the right term. And my son showed me a thing on TikTok of a guy who's like, the voice memos, they're really great because I can just talk and then it goes, and then my friend can send me back something. But what's missing is it's not a real conversation. It's not real time. It's not live. I can't talk over them. They can't talk over. Oh wait, that's a phone call. I hate phone calls.
I'm a big fan of voice messages in a private circle. I hate it when people hit me out of the blue on LinkedIn with a voice message. I will just not listen to it.
Yeah.
But it's not amazing either because you can't search yet in voice messages. And I spend a lot of time searching in my WhatsApp because there is always something someone told me at some point, a password, an address or something. When you send me a voice message, I can't find it. So it's a bit annoying. But yeah, that's my answer. However, for checks, please kill it once and for all. I don't understand banks are still using checks in 2025. I mean, for God's sake, it's not safe. We're using paper to transfer money. It's not as convenient as cash. It's not as safe as digital or credit cards. There's so much fraud around it, and it's not even convenient because you have to go to the bank or mail it or whatever it is. It requires extra effort. Can we kill that channel once and for all? That'd be my ask.
It's funny. I talked to my wife and I forget somebody else yesterday or after we spoke with Marine, and checks are still ingrained here. Checks aren't going away. Again, it's a very small piece compared to what it used to be, but I right or wrong, good or bad, it's just pretty baked into the US, and I think it's going to be a while till we can pull that ingredient out of the cake.
I gotta talk to you, gardener. We're gonna make changes over.
All right. That'll do it.
But with that, what I can suggest is to get some fresh blood here on stage to share an exciting story. Should I invite today's guest?
Yes, please. Let's do it.
And now, please welcome this week's guest, a true CX expert.
Good
Daniel's
morning, Daniel.
here.
Welcome.
Good
How are
morning.
you doing?
I realize we're on a run. We had Brian for our last episode, and now we have Daniel. We're now going through people who have been my boss at one point in time or another, and I like it.
I was your manager, but you were my boss, Max.
Yeah, all right, fine.
So
Yeah,
it's time for revenge, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, yes, yes. So I'm going to, Daniel, as we warned you, I'm going to ask you now my hard-biting softball questions.
Sure.
And first one is, you're a recent father, and I just want to check in. How's fatherhood going?
Oh, it's been wonderful. We have my wife and I. We recently had twins, and I'll tell you, there's some like kind of philosophies that you somehow become some great philosopher through all the sleep deprivation and sensory overload and all that stuff. I never knew going into this how difficult it would be in the beginning with twins. And, from what I hear, raising one baby is hard enough. I totally get that. I think with twins, some things that kind of come to mind is like, I thought I was busy before,
Right.
but then there's this, whole new life. Having twins it's not linear, it's exponential. And what I mean by that is there are some difficult moments when maybe your wife is passed out, she's in recovery, you're feeding one of the babies and the other baby wakes up and is crying. You have to feed this baby while listening for 10-15 minutes your other twin baby crying. It's the most heartbreaking thing. So like when it's exponential, there's all these different variables that come to place when there's only one of you and you have to potentially care for two. That, and it's double the blessing, and they're becoming friends and all that. There's a lot of great stuff there. So
Yeah,
adventure. Thanks for asking, Max.
yeah, of course. Yeah, having kids to me is like, it's the hardest thing you ever do, and it's the most worthwhile thing you ever do at the same time. So
yeah.
You've been an analyst, you've worked for vendors, you've worked for providers of different sorts. Going back and forth from analyst to vendor, there's kind of the light side and the dark side jokes that go back and forth from both ends. How do you, when you think about working for a provider of some sort versus working as an analyst, how do you compare the roles? What's the differences to your mind?
Oh, that's a great question. It's every now and then. Being an analyst, by the way, I think is a privilege. It's an awesome career, an awesome, like work that you're doing, and you're kind of like that wizard in that white ivory tower, because you have access to so much information. You're having so much conversations and really understanding kind of the beat of what's going on. But a lot of that is at the strategic level. It's not tactical. It's not day to day. So when you're doing the day to day stuff, when you join the provider side, I think all that details that go into like single deployments or learning really in depth, having clients, having deep level conversations with clients, getting potentially yelled at by the clients, right? And adjusting and coming up with plans. That is also really good to round out your understanding of a certain area. So for me, like through my career, I've had the opportunity to do both. right? And enjoy both. So taking the learnings, kind of progressing and evolving, and then going back to, at some point, I'd like to go back to being an analyst, right? In the future, several years down the line. But for now, like really understanding client needs, and then getting that POV, right, at the very detailed level, that can only help later on as you're back in the ivory tower.
That makes a lot of sense. So I'm now going to ask the Art Scholler memorial question. Not that Art Scholler isn't around, but this is his question. I'm sure you know what it is just from my saying that. So no one at Christmas, when they're an 8-year-old boy, says, I want a headset and I want to be an agent when I grow up. For Christmas, I want a headset. How did you fall into customer service and just this whole world?
Yeah. I think like everyone, it was by accident.
Yeah, that's why it's such a fun question, because nobody has a straightforward story.
I was doing research for a think tank. I work at a think tank at Columbia University, and Gartner, Forrester, IDC. We used all of those research firms in their research. Data Monitor also. And it just so happens when I was finishing up kind of my part of that research, which was an immense, like 20 years of consolidation in the technology industry. What does that mean, right? It's not just technology, but all these other sectors like print publishing. Just essentially what the book was about that I was working on was who owns what. And if too few companies own kind of the media, then we're in a dangerous place, right? Meaning if you can manipulate essentially kind of what people are consuming, right? So I did a lot of research into market concentration there. Within there was technology sector. Within there, I used a lot of the market research firms. Data Monitor just so happened to be hiring at that point for what was customer relationship outsourcing, aka contact center. Okay. And I applied, and 20 somewhat years later, here I am.
That's cool. So with the media, that could be anything from television channels to WebRTC.
Yeah. One of the cool things that I was able to work on was we did what's called a market concentration study on syndicated news across the US. And we kind of modeled out who owned what. And then my manager at the time and the professor that led the think tank went straight into Washington, D.C. and presented their findings.
Oh my God!
They just took that because it was an empirical study and made the decision on deregulating. It wasn't regulating, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Wow, deregulating the phone company or deregulating?
Oh no, this was, I remember the 1996 that telecommunications, like the deregulation.
Yeah, okay, that.
No, this was after that. This was just for syndicated network news across the US.
Okay.
So now that we know where you're coming from, how did you come to where you are today? I'd love to hear a little bit more about what has happened to you recently and what is that terrible story. So it's going to be story time.
Gather around, folks. It's time for guest CX story.
All right, Daniel, now it's showtime. Tell us. Make yourself comfortable on the therapy couch and tell us what has happened to you.
Oh, so this is the part where I talk about one of the customer service experiences.
Yes, this is all about your story.
Yeah. So Max, as you mentioned before, recent father. So back when my wife was pregnant, we made a trip up to the Bay Area, and we stayed at a Marriott property. It was an AC hotel in Palo Alto. And if you are pregnant, diet is very important, what you consume and eat on a daily basis. And we had brought with us some, I believe, like organic milk and some pretty good organic Greek yogurt for the protein. So it's really important for my wife to have that. And as we checked in, we got to the room. There was a refrigeration unit there. And we assumed that this was a mini fridge that you can put dairy products and there shouldn't be a problem there. So we went ahead and did that. And the next morning, you felt the dairy product and it's like somewhat warm.
Oh no.
And that refrigeration unit was probably like 50 degrees or so. It wasn't meant for colder storage, for definitely not dairy products, which you have to have around the 30 somewhat degree temperature threshold. So we just assumed that the refrigeration unit was broken, and that's why it was like kind of warm. And there were some other issues. I think one of the beds, something was wrong with one of the legs of the bed. So we actually asked to change rooms, which we did. So we moved to the other room, went back and bought the dairy products, so on and so forth, so she can have and enjoy those. Put it in the fridge. It's still kind of warm, so I'm thinking, all right, it must. There's no way this one could be broken too. And I was assuming that you once you it'll just turn on. Plugged it, took the plug out, put it back in. That will start working again. It sounded great. And a few hours later, no, it wasn't cold. So now that kind of the milk and the yogurt was bad again. So this time I called up the front desk and I had asked them, hey, what's going on with these refrigerators? This is the second one in your hotel. And it just so happens is this one broken as well. And they proceeded to tell me that, oh no, that's only to keep your drinks somewhat cold. It's not really for storing any food, right? Let alone dairy products. And then I said, well, you could have at least had some kind of sign or something there, because imagine if you had like babies and kids that you needed to have store some food with. And they're all, yeah, we should do that. But as I was walking down into the lobby to go back to the supermarket to buy more milk and yogurt, the front desk person who had taken the call apologized and said, oh, I know you're very busy and I'm so sorry about, what happened with all the, the food. I like to go ahead and just pick that up for you guys so you don't have to worry about that.
Oh,
and
nice.
We were back at that point we're going to actually go out and do some other stuff before stopping by the supermarket again. And we thought that was a very kind gesture. So she's all, tell me exactly what you want and what you need. So we did. And by the time we got back, she had it right there in ice, ready for us. And we had an ice cooler, and she went ahead and also got us ice. So we put everything in the ice cooler. So that was no longer an issue. But she went above and beyond. I don't even know if she was able to expense that. I don't even know if that was hotel policy, if they encouraged that. She went ahead on her break and went to this local supermarket to pick that up for us. So I thought that left an indelible mark. I mean, I would definitely have brand loyalty. Maybe not to the entire brand, but that one location. If I do get a chance, if I'm in the area, for sure, without a doubt, I'll be staying at that property.
Well, thank you for sharing. That is a great story. It highlights something we've talked about in the past, but it highlights it beautifully. It highlights a difference between a brand and it's people. And you can have the best processes in place, the best product in place, the best everything at a corporate level. If you don't have the right people, it's just not going to work. But it's also true the other way around. You may actually fuck it up, which is kind of what's happening here, but have fantastic people who actually care, and they just save the day. So in your case here, I mean, let's start with a fridge. Let's leave that incredible individual on the side for a second. Why on earth would you have a fridge in every room, which has a cost because you need to buy them, you need to maintain them, you need to clean them, and you need to have the electricity? If it's just basically a mini bar for additional dollars at the end of your stay, it's pretty expensive. I'm not even sure they could actually have ROI on this. It doesn't even seem to make much sense. Was it a paid minibar? I'm assuming in a Marriott, there was probably a $5 water bottle that was inside.
Yeah, they're. I think they had like some water bottles to the side outside of the refrigeration unit, but this refrigeration unit didn't have anything inside. It was purely for storage of food. But I don't understand like why would you store it's not even for food. You can't even really put food there. It's to keep a drink or somewhat cold.
It's like having a shower, but we don't. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I mean, it's like having shower and saying, sorry, we provide kind of warm water, but you won't really get warm or hot. But if you want cold, we have, at least we have a shower. And that's kind of a weird thing because, again, that costs a lot of money to buy, set up, maintain, pay for the electricity, the cleaning, and everything.
Yeah, you implied it in your story, Daniel, that when I see a refrigerator, I don't assume, oh, this is a lukewarmerator. I assume this is going to make things cold. And so there's a huge deke, I'll use that word, with this. And then, did you get the sense, and you must not, it must not have been the case, since it sounds like the woman who above and beyond was the one you were talking to on the phone as well. I can't with a straight face see he's telling a guest, oh yeah, no, that refrigerator, I know it looks like one, but it's not actually cold. I mean, that's just staggering to me.
What I find even more surprising is you can't be the first person to complain about that. I mean,
right.
Unless they all broke down or they changed all the fridge units 2 days ago, and you were really the unlucky guest to be the first one to open the fridge. You can be the first person to open the fridge there. But there must have been other people asking the same question, and nothing happened following that. So it's a very weird strategic decision. I think it would be better to not offer anything than to offer that. It's costly, and I actually assume that was a mini bar, so maybe it's because I want to sell more nuts and Coke. But if it's not even that, then I really don't understand what the purpose is altogether. It's a pretty bad story at the beginning, but a fantastic individual. We've seen that multiple times in the past, where the hero in shining armor actually comes and saves the day. We actually had one recently with Marion as well. Through his 27 months journey, he met one person out of 15 hours on the phone. He met one individual that actually cared and saved the day. And that's exactly what's happening to you here. And it happens in two different phases, right? Phase one is, I just answered the phone. You have a problem. This is immediate reaction. I don't really have a fix for you. And then there is phase two, where actually I could fix that, and I'm going to go over and beyond and make sure that that person. What do you think that is? Do you think this person had been in the hotel for like 20 years and she does care? Does she have shares in the company? Is she just really involved and cares a lot about her work? Or were you just too touching with your pregnant wife and she really felt bad about you guys? What happened there?
it's hard to pinpoint and say without a doubt. I mean, it could be a variety of factors. Number one, pregnancy is hard, right? And perhaps she had gone through pregnancy, so she knows,
yeah.
right? Some other kind of more kind of scientific stuff. I don't know if it's science, but I have sat in on a very fascinating presentation given by a small consultancy firm. And what they do is they go around and have focus groups of contact center agents all around the US, and to really understand their motivation. So it's really kind of getting into the psyche of customer service workers. And one of the key findings that they've had that they shared that I thought was an aha moment is when the kind of the rock star contact center agents, a motivation for them is for them to help the customer. So let me double click into that. It's not me, the agent, saying as a extension of this brand, I'm going to help this customer. They make it clear in kind of the interviews and what they gathered. I want to help this customer. So they're taking it personally in a way. It's not like me on the behalf of this large corporation. It's I. And that verbiage that they use, that I want to help, they broke it down where a lot of the successful customer service workers that have had a lot of heritage and like long tenures at companies, they really thrive in that. And I think they get a lot of satisfaction in helping others. They're just wired like that. In addition, there's one of the former heads of CX Insights, Alex Genov, a friend of mine. We had a conversation several months ago where he had said when he was at Zappos, and Zappos kind of being, having a high bar for customer service experience, as we all know, what he was very interested in, and I think it was kind of an extension of what Zappos was really kind of looking at in terms of CX, was how do you take a bad experience and make it good, right? And what is the delta? What does that look like? And to be able to understand that. So it's not just you call up Zappos. I think a lot of people already know that they're going to have amazing customer service, but like, how are you going to take what they were interested in at that point? Because they already knew that they were good. They already had all the analytics there. So going down into that level of detail of, well, what are the variables to make a bad experience and turn it good, and how are we going to measure that? So I thought that was pretty.
Yeah, I love that, because that Julien is always, you're going to make mistakes. There are going to be problems, and that's the moment that matters, right? That's the point where it's like, okay, how do I react? What, it could have easily been, yeah, go get your stuff. And you'd be like, oh, the hell with this place. I never want to come back. But instead she's like, we're doing something that's causing this guy pain. I feel the pain. I'm going to go fix it because I care enough to want to do that. Yeah, that's a brilliant piece of
and to your point, really turning things around, because the natural reaction would have been to say, look, this is, first of all, they fucked it up. But second, they are taking a risk here. My wife, my pregnant wife, is taking a risk because of them. Because you never know. It's as someone pregnant, any bad bacteria that you would get from dairy product that turned bad can actually be horrible for yourself and the fetus. So it can actually get ugly pretty quickly. So then a natural reaction would have been to say, look, there are plenty of hotels there. Next time I'm around, I'm never coming here ever again. I'll try another hotel. They will not fuck it up the same way. And that single individual, with just a few dollars and a few extra minutes, potentially not even paid or reimbursed by the company, that's actually a fair point, manage to turn things around and to get you to say, I'm going to be loyal to this specific branch, and next time I'm in town, that's exactly where I'm going, because I'm not sure what kind of service I will get in the hotel, but if things go wrong, I know I can count on them to fix it. And that's pretty powerful, because to Max's point, you're gonna fuck it up at some point. If there is one thing we know from Murphy's Law, sooner or later things go wrong, and there's nothing you can do about it. But if you have the right people to fix it, this is where the experience gets beautiful. The parallel with Zappos is great, because that's exactly what it is. It is every now and then someone is not going to be satisfied, because we can't control 100% of everything we're doing, but we control how we handle the problem. And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Max, anything else you wanted to analyze on this one? That was a short story, but I actually feel good about this one.
I did too. I mean, the simplicity of problem, bad refrigerator, solution, hero. And you I guess the other point I would make is it's very hard to make being a hero a scalable solution to anything. So they're maybe they have wonderful employee training, and as Zappos does, and they instill this in their people so deeply that they do have a way that the company's doing it. But I really pardon me, I really kind of feel like she did this in spite of the company. That she just, to your point, Daniel, she's the sort of person that's truly empathetic, really, truly cares. And I didn't get a sense that there's anything that came from Marriott or AC brand that said, this is the way we want. And maybe there was, but just, I'm sorry, I'm never going to get my head around. Here is a refrigerator that looks like every other refrigerator you've ever used in your life. And oh, by the way, it doesn't actually get cold.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, what?
There's Max, I don't know if your CX colleagues at Forrester did more research into peak-end theory.
Oh, I know that. I haven't heard about it lately, so I don't know if anybody's actively doing anything with it. But yeah.
It's kind of funny how like the refrigerator, that's what it's kind of like sticking in your head. And for those of you, Julien, do you know what the peak-end theory is?
I talk about this one quite a bit. That's okay. One of the courses I'm actually giving in university, specifically around the peak end, making sure people understand how important it is. Because I'm a big believer that this is how you fix customer experience.
Okay, somebody describe it, because we're teasing it enough here, and I'm sure everyone isn't familiar with it.
So peak end theory is basically saying that when you look at the overall customer experience, not every interaction is equal. It's not a simple mathematical equation where every piece of interaction is equal. You have two interactions that have way more weight than everything else. The end, which is the last interaction you have with the brand. And that's why customer service is so important, because very often your experience ends with customer service, not always, but very often. And the peak is the most emotional point of your experience, which could be incredibly good, but very often is the most terrible part of the experience. And you tend to remember these two things. You may forget the rest of the story, but the thing that's going to stick with you for the next decade is the peak and the end. And sometimes it can be the same thing. Most of the time they will be different. And that's what you're going to remember and be able to tell friends.
Yeah. And
sorry, Daniel, you
because this is the perfect example of that, right?
Yeah. That's kind of the third thing that was on my mind that I forgot to bring up. So I decided to slide that in. Now, but that's very much, I think, what I know my wife remembers that, and that act of kindness on the.
I'm surprised you're not exchanging Christmas gifts with that.
Yeah.
I would actually just disagree with one thing on your analysis, Max. Consciously or unconsciously, I think Marriott had something to do with this. not because necessarily they have the right training or the right programs, or but they must be doing something right, because talents stick around companies that care. If you are really good at your job, but you are not treated, especially front desk. Front desk is tough, and it's not like you have only 3 hotels chains. You have millions of them. So if you're not treated well, if you don't feel like your extra mile is being appreciated by the hierarchy above you, you can pretty easily move and find a different job somewhere else for a similar salary. So they must be doing something right to attract the right talent and retain them, or they're just incredibly lucky. It's either or, but I would give them the benefits of the doubt. I think they are doing something right to recruit and keep the right talent. It's something in the culture.
I agree. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't need to be quite so mean to Marianne.
And I did not expect, I mean, today is a very hot day in France. I did not expect we would be talking about a story of fridges not working. And that kind of freaks me out, because I'm boiling in here. So as soon as we're done, I'm going to check whether my fridge is actually working and spend some time with the door open to refresh.
It's like the plate of shrimp thing from Repo Man.
Oh, oh God.
Well, a huge thank you, Daniel, for taking the time. Just to give a little bit of context here, we've been trying to get you on the CX couch for what, 8 months, I believe. It has been almost a full pregnancy. So we're super happy we finally got to term and managed to get you to lie down with our twins on the couch just to share your story without anyone crying in the background. Thank you so much for taking the time. Max, as usual, thank you for your sharp analysis. Thank you, everyone who is watching. If you do have questions, comments, if you came across non-working fridges or weird-looking fridges in your hotel room, if you have problem with the shower in your hotel room, or if you have any question for Daniel of that specific story, you can contact us directly. You can reach out to Max via LinkedIn. He does not accept faxes anymore. Or send him a more traditional letter with a check. He still accepts those.
Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you.
I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day, and we'll be talking again in a month's time. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Julien.
Take care.